Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Mr. Bolden, and I want to welcome you guys back to the actual 6th episode of BoldEnBrass. We are moving forward in this thing, and I'm so very proud of you guys who have been watching and who have been subscribing. We are up to like 72 subscribers now, man, so y'all keep it coming, man, and I'm going to keep on throwing out new content. Today, let's get right into it. Today, we are going to be learning about scales, all right? We're going to be learning about scales, hence the reason why behind me on my little board, you see a bunch of letters and you see major and minor and all that type of stuff. It looks a little foreign to you guys, but I promise you, by the end of this show, you're going to actually know so much about scales to the point where you'll be able to create your own major and minor scales, all right? So before we get into it, there are a few things that I want to go on ahead and ask you guys to do. First thing, if you have not visited my past episode entitled The Staff, you might want to go on ahead and check that out. What I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description and you can check out the first episode. That's actually my first episode, which is entitled The Staff. Secondly, if you haven't checked out any of them, what I'll do is, because I don't want to go, because all of this stuff ties into what we're doing right now. What we're doing, the end goal of this whole thing is to actually build a puzzle to where you guys can know how to read music fluently, okay? So if you haven't checked out any one of my past episodes, any one of the last 5 episodes that I've thrown out, what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description box and you guys can actually check out those links and those shows, all right? All right, so the second thing is of course, being the fact that you guys decided to watch my episode, watch my channel, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, share this with other students, man, other scholars. And if you're an adult and you want to actually learn about music and you think that other people's channels or whatnot are kind of collegiate and they may go above your head and you think I'm that guy, then feel free to like, subscribe, and share this with other students, other adults, other teachers, for those who want to actually get a better insight on what it is to understand these concepts and understand what it is to know music to become a better musician. Do those things for me, all right? So like, subscribe, share. If you got something positive to say, all positive vibes only. Negatives will get you blocked. Make sure that you comment. What I'm gonna do is I'll be asking questions for my students. You already know, meet me in Microsoft Teams and make sure you get that assignment done. For other students, you can comment answers and things like that inside of my comment section, all right? Make sure, like I said, keep it respectful, keep it positive, all positive vibes only, all right? So without further ado, let's go on ahead and get into scale. So Mr. Bolden, what is a scale? Well, I'm glad you asked. A scale is simply a sequential group of notes that are put into this sequential order from low note to the same high pitch as that same low note. So for example, if we were to do the B-flat scale, it's going to start at B-flat and it's going to always end at B-flat. The only scale that's not going to end up ending at the same note that it started with is of course going to be the chromatic scale. Because the chromatic scale, when we do a chromatic scale, the chromatic scale is basically you starting at the lowest pitch of your respective instrument and going up to its highest pitch, all right? So the second thing that I want you to look at is basically the way that the notes are set up. You have notes that are in red boxes that have 2 names, and you also have notes that have solo names, all right? So you might have a note that is, let's say, C sharp, and then it has D flat that's in parentheses. Well, the thing that you have to understand is that C sharp and D flat are basically the same sounding note. The reason why we have them as the same as in one box but two different letter notes is because when we write our scales, we don't want to have flats and sharps intertwining. If we have a flat scale, let's say for instance B flat, we don't want to say B flat, C, D, and then D sharp, and then we're going up to F, right? We want to always make sure that those flats are coinciding with the type of scale that you're playing. So if we say B flat scale, then we want to make sure that all of the notes are flat. If we say a sharp scale or a scale that has sharps in it, you don't want to have any flats in it. You want to always make them sharp keys, right? If you, and the next reason why we have those together is because when we're going up the scale, you want to always make sure that you're going in alphabetical order. So if we were to start at the B flat scale and we were to go up the scale, and let's say we ended up at D sharp, right? We're going to say B flat, C, D, and then D sharp. No, we're not going to say that at all, because we're actually going to end up with two letter Ds, two of the D letters, instead of having B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then B, right? So we want to always make sure that when we're creating our scales and when we're writing our scales out, that it's number one, going in alphabetical order, and then two, we want to make sure that the last names are coinciding with the type of scale that you're writing. So guys, when we're dealing with the chromatic scale, this is the first scale we're going to work on today. Think about this. When you're dealing with a chromatic scale, understand that the chromatic scale goes up nothing but half steps. There are no whole steps involved. There are no whole and a half step. It's just nothing but half steps. Also, when you're dealing with a chromatic scale, I want you to realize that you're starting at the lowest pitch of your respected instrument and you're going up as high as you can. But in today's lesson, what I'm going to do, I'm going to demonstrate what it sounds like to start at B flat and go all the way up to the octave B flat. All right. So we're starting at B flat and we're ending at B flat at a higher octave. Okay. So octave basically means a higher pitch, for those who forgot what the word octave means. All right. So we're starting at B flat and we're ending at B flat. Okay. And all the chromatic scale is, once again, are just straight half steps. You're going up half steps. Okay. So let's go on ahead and give you what it sounds like to demonstrate what a chromatic scale sounds like. So what a chromatic scale in my mind tells me is that it sounds like, if I were to imagine what a chromatic scale would look like visually, I would imagine that a chromatic scale sounds like I'm walking upstairs to the top of the stairs, and as I descended in my notes and went back down to the original note that I started with, I walked back down the stairs. All right. So in the comment section, tell me what you think about the chromatic scale, how it may, how you can actually visualize what a chromatic scale sounds like. All right. So in my mind, like I said, a chromatic scale might sound like I'm walking up a flight of stairs and then I'm coming right back down. All right. So that's the chromatic scale. You guys, now the second scale that we're going to be working with today is called the major scale. So the major scale, I can tell you now, there are 12 scales in the major scale, but we're going to only work with one today. And I'm going to ask you at the end of this episode to write out 3 of your own major scales using the following formulas that's behind it. All right. So of course, the one thing that I need you to understand is that with a major scale, you're going to always start off with one note. And at the end of the scale, when you go up the sequential order, you're going to end at that same exact scale, that same exact note. I'm going to say that again. You're going to start off at one note, And that one note that you start with, you're gonna also end with that same note, okay? So for instance, we're gonna take B flat, the B flat scale. We're gonna write out together what the B flat scale consists of, all right? And so make sure you're going up that alphabetical sequential order so that we can make sure that we hit that B flat on the mark, all right? So here's the formula for writing out a major scale. So first off, we have a whole step because the W stands for whole and the H stands for half, right? So we have a whole step, we have another whole step, then we have a half, then we have a whole, another whole, a third whole, and then another half. And then we're supposed to, on that half, we're gonna end on B flat. Now the way I have this set up is I have it starting off with B flat covering the window between the major and the first whole, because when we go through that hole, we're gonna be just covering in the windows underneath this. So when we make a whole step from B flat, here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna start at B flat. And remember, when we have a whole step, when we make a whole step, we're gonna skip a letter, or we're gonna skip a note or a member of this family, and we're gonna go to the next note, all right? So a whole step from B flat, we're gonna skip this B natural and jump to the C. So a whole step, boom, puts us at C. So we're at B flat, and then we have C. If we go another whole step, we're gonna start at C, and we're gonna skip a letter, or skip a group, or whatever it is, and we're gonna go straight to a D. So skip here from C, we go straight to D right here. We're gonna go another half, we're gonna end up in a half step. So the next group is gonna be a half. So all we're gonna do, we're gonna start at this D, and we're gonna end up going next door. So is it gonna be D sharp, or is it gonna be E flat? If you said E flat, you're absolutely right, all right? Because what we're doing is we're staying in sequential order. So we have B, C, D, and the next letter of the alphabet, of course, is going to be E. And being the fact that we made a half step from D and we went next door to this E right here, it's now going to be E natural, but it's going to actually end up being E flat, all right? So now the next group of steps that we're gonna make a whole step from E flat, all right? And then we're gonna jump to our next whole step. So we skip E natural and we end up at what note? F natural, right? So F natural is gonna be our next whole step. Then we have another whole step from F natural, which is gonna put us at what? G. And then our next whole step we're gonna do is gonna be from G all the way to A natural. And then if everything is right, we're supposed to make a half step, correct? So our half step is gonna be next door. So our half step is gonna go from A natural to what? B flat, right? And so of course that puts us at B flat. So how can you tell if you've gotten this note correct, right? How can you tell? Well, if you have your instrument with you, and if you don't have an instrument, what you can do is you can go on your Android or your iPhone and you can download the piano device, and you'll learn how to actually create. I'm sorry, my battery is dying, but you'll be able to basically write out these notes on a piano and see how it sounds. So a major scale is going to always sound like a happy type of song, all right? It's going to always sound like a happy song when you're dealing with a major scale, okay? So I want you guys to remember that. Major scale, and that's the reason why in the beginning I had this little smiley face right here, because a major scale is a happy scale, okay? So this is what the B flat scale is going to sound like. So I want you guys in the comment section to make describe for me how this scale practically sounded, all right? If you want me to play it again, I'll play it again. And all you got to do is put it in the comment section, or you can basically rewind it back. All right, so this is what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to write for me using this formula. I want you guys to write for me 3 scales other than the B flat scale. I want you to write 3 scales, 3 major scales, either in the comment section, or if you're one of my students, you can write it out in Microsoft Teams. All right, 3 scales, hit it. Now, when we talk about a minor scale, I want you guys to remember this. A minor scale also starts at a specific note and ends on that higher pitch note, that same note that's at a higher pitch. So if we were to start off once again at B flat, of course, we're going to end at what note? B flat, right? But the difference between a minor and a major scale is how it sounds, right? As well as some of the notes that are included, right? So a major scale, like I said, sounds happy. Now, the minor scale actually sounds opposite of what a major scale sounds like. A minor scale sounds a little dark and a little like gloomy and sad sounding, right? Or angry, or however, whatever negative feeling you want to put to it. It sounds dark, right? And so the formula in building a minor scale is as follows. You want to go a whole step, a half step, whole, half, whole, and then a whole step. So this is how it goes. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. That's how you build a minor scale, all right? And all of these are stepwise motions, all right? Step motions, all right? So let's start off with our minor scale. Of course, we're gonna start off with B flat once again. Our first move is gonna be a whole step. So of course, we're gonna go from B flat and we're gonna skip going next door and we're gonna end up at C, right? So we have B flat and then C. Then we are gonna make a half step. We're not gonna make another whole step like in the major scale. We're gonna make a half step. So we're gonna go from C natural to not C sharp, but to D flat, right? Because these two, of course, like I said, are the same note, except they have different names, right? First and last names. So we're gonna take a half step and we're gonna end up we're gonna go from C natural to D flat. Then we're gonna make a whole step from B flat. We're gonna start up at B flat and we're gonna pass up our next door neighbor, which is D natural, and we're gonna end up at what note? If you said E flat, you are absolutely right. Then after that, we're gonna make another whole step. We're gonna go from E flat and we're gonna jump down to the letter F, right? So you can see we're going in alphabetical order, right? So we're at F natural. And then of course, we're gonna make a half step from F. It puts us right next door to our little red box area, which is gonna be what? G flat. And then of course, when we jump another whole step from G flat, that puts us at what note? A flat. And if all else is right, if all else goes well, we're gonna make one last whole step from A flat. We skip A natural, we'll end up at what note? B flat. So if everything sounds good, this is what the B flat minor scale should sound like. This is what the B flat minor scale should sound like. So do you hear the distinct difference between the major and the minor? Allow me to play the major scale and the minor scale right after. This is the major scale right here. And the minor scale. difference between major and minor scales. Write in the comment section whether or not you hear the difference between those two, all right? Now, what I want you to also write is, I want you using this formula to be able to tell me 3 different minor scales, all right? So you see you have the B flat minor scale that's been used, that we use the formula, the minor formula for, and we have the B flat major scale that we use the major formula for. So I want you guys to write down 3 major scales using that formula, and I want you guys to write out 3 minor scales, all right? So guys, here's the assignment for today's episode. What I want you guys to practice on is I want you all to create or develop your own 3 major scales and your own 3 minor scales, all right? It doesn't matter what letter you choose, as long as you create, or letters, 3 letters you choose, as long as you create a major scale of your own and you create a minor scale of your own, all right? Now, if you guys don't have or don't still understand how to create them, by all means, look at the formula behind me. For those who are students of mine, what I'll do is I'll take a picture and I'll actually put it into the Microsoft Teams file, so you can kind of use that as a cheat sheet in order to create your 3 major scales and your 3 minor scales, all right? So as a recap, what you're gonna do is you're gonna create 3 major scales. You're gonna pick one of these letters up here, and you're going to use the formula in the major scales formula, and you're going to create a major scale. Remember, whatever letter you start with has to be the same letter that you end with. And same thing goes for your minor scale. Whatever scale you start off with is going to be the scale that you, whatever letter you start off with is going to be the letter that you end with, all right? All right, so here's a quick recap of what we learned today. What we learned today, we talked about the major scales and how major scales are sequential, alphabetical order notes that are put in notes that are put in the order. I'm tearing this up. They're notes that are put into order in sequential order from the lowest pitch to that same pitch at a higher level, all right, or at its octave. We learned about chromatic scales and how chromatic scales go half steps, which are notes that are next door to each other. Then we learned about major scales, which are happy scales, and the formula for a major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And when we say whole and half, we talk about steps. And of course, minor scales are the opposite of major scales. They're actually dark sounding scales that are kind of like sad and gloomy. And the formula for a half scale is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, all right? And of course, the last thing that should have been mentioned in the beginning is the 2 notes that are in the box, which basically represent the same sound, and how these 2 notes, these 2 different named notes actually end up being the same sound, but the only reason why they are in the box together is when you create the scale. If you have like a flat scale, you always want to make sure that the flats stay in relation to that flat scale. And whatever sharps you have in a scale that has sharps in it, you want to make sure that that stays in that same type of family, okay? So if you enjoyed this video, if you actually learned something in this video, along with the assignment that you all have, feel free to comment in the comment section. Also, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to like, I want you guys to subscribe, and of course, share this with somebody who really doesn't know anything about major scales, minor scales, and chromatic scales, because the thing about musicians is we always want to make sure that we're getting better. We don't ever want to be stagnant, all right? So make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, and follow me on social media at Glec PBA Music, all right? So until we meet each other again, and until we see each other on the next episode, peace and much love.